Yeah, it's interesting because you just brought up torture, Shahid, and there is another connection is that what they've been doing to Assange and what they did to Manning. The UN and other organizations, medical organizations, consider solitary confinement to be torture. So there's that other connection. And I said during one of the other panels that this is the type of behavior that if any other country were engaged in it, the United States would condemn. And Jen, I think you said that we'd be invading that said country on the grounds of its attack on free press, human rights violations.
Yeah.
It's just incredible.
The just following up on Katie's point, the Convention Against Torture, and that's part of U.S. law under the Supremacy Clause. That's a treaty the U.S. has ratified. But under that treaty, it says it has a provision called non-refoulement. And that means that no country who's a party to that treaty can extradite a person to a country where there is a substantial likelihood that that person would be subjected to torture. And witness after witness at Julian Assange's extradition hearing testified that because he's charged under the Espionage Act, he would be housed in a maximum security prison and be in solitary confinement for at least 23 hours a day. And as Katie says, solitary confinement amounts to torture. It can cause hallucinations, catatonia, suicide. And so there is a substantial likelihood that Julian Assange would be subjected to torture. And that's one of the best grounds for denying extradition. And interestingly, when the judge denied the Trump petition to extradite Julian Assange, it wasn't about the First Amendment issues, which she actually did not question. She didn't question the Trump administration's attacks on the First Amendment. It was because she said that the U.S. prison system was not equipped to protect him against committing suicide, which is a real indictment of the U.S. prison system.
And just to put another lens on that, the country that we revolted from to establish our independence said that we don't protect human rights enough for them to trust a prisoner in our custody. It's that bad.
Yeah. So he's at such risk there.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just say, what Shahid and Marjorie are pointing to is a multidimensional set of hypocrisies that boil down to do as we say, not as we do, or as the much missed late Senator Wayne Morse pointed out, the perception, the assumption that might makes right. No matter how you dress it up, that is the policy of the U.S. government internationally. And so there's a sort of a death spiral, literally and figuratively, towards principled politics based on democracy. Senator Morse was one of the few, even at the time, who really cared about and spoke out for international law. And we're now facing a situation where a journalist who is a publisher, who published information that was of vital public interest, has been subjected to de facto torture conditions already. Certainly tremendous adversity imposed on him, confinement. People often don't understand that for the many years that he was in the Ecuadorian embassy, and I've been in there in London, very small. Imagine being locked up in your very small house for 5 years. You can't even step out on the porch. That is a precursor for what the U.S. government has in store for this guy. And like many people, I have some criticisms of things that Julian has done. The fact is, my criticisms don't have a iota of effect on the fact that he has full and complete access and should get complete protection under the First Amendment, as well as many human rights treaties that the United States is part of. I mean, just as an aside, I think it's a relevant one, a very relevant one. This is a political prosecution. That's what it's all about. And if you read some of Julian's books, like there's a great one, which is underread and underappreciated, called When Google Met WikiLeaks, you see the tremendous insights that he has shared through his work, through his writing, through his speaking. And there's also another reality that I think needs to be mentioned, is that for many people around the world, Julian Assange was the very first source of the information and insight that iPhones, smartphones, all the rest of it were not just a communication device, they had been turned into a surveillance device. And that was one of the great services that Julian Assange has provided to the world by letting people know early on that technology is not neutral, how it was being manipulated, why it was being manipulated, and by whom.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.